On now and introduce our first collector of the evening. Peter Sheridan's collection is just gorgeous. Everybody gather round the TV now.
I've been collecting about 10 years. I have about 120 radios. I'd like another 30, but I really can't fit them in. The first one I bought in London was a green Emerson tombstone from the States, about 1935, and I just loved the colour, the texture. It started a whole new wave for me. This is my latest acquisition. It's a black silver tone from the States from the late 30s, and it's just a beautiful design, looks like a train, and nothing is new in the world because it already had preset buttons for stations. What I look for in a Bakelite radio is style. The cabinet is the main feature. The quality of it, the rarity of it, the colour of it, and how it fits into the deco genre. My all-time favourite radio is the Colonial Globe radio, and it's just beautiful in that somebody went to all the trouble of putting the valves inside the globe. The dials are on the left and right, and the speakers down the bottom, and I love it because it's black and ebony.
And my all-time favourite is Robbie the Robot, which is an English radio of the 1930s. It's an echo radio, and I love it because it's black and white and it has a bit of a face on it.
I think Australia's done remarkably well in producing some wonderfully designed and coloured radios of that period, even though we didn't have the designers.
I love the American radios because they had these fabulous industrial designers, and they used the colour as well as the structure of the radios to bring that out. This radio isn't a Bakelite radio. It's made of mirrors and wood, but I think it's one of the most spectacular radios we have.
This is the green Echo AD65. It's one of only two in the world. It's a beautiful radio, wonderful size, and I simply love the feel of it, and I give it a pat every day. Brown was the only colour the Brits would accept in radios until the 50s, and even though Wells Coates kept producing coloured radios, he couldn't sell any. In my collection, I've got three radios which represent a really interesting period in history. They are German radios. The first one is called Sonnenblume, and by a company called Nora, which is the reverse of the guy's name, whose name was Ahrens, a Jewish gentleman. These radios, by the time the Nazis came in, were all destroyed, and in their place, the Germans were allowed to have a very square box called the Volksempfänger, which only would broadcast German Nazi propaganda. However, if you were of the elite in Germany in the mid-30s, there is a radio called Siemens. This was only available to those of the upper class of German society. As an Australian collection, there are others that are probably as good, but as an international collection, it probably now rates as one of the best in the world.
Oh, Peter, they are just spectacular.
Aren't they lovely?
We're all swooning, aren't
yeah.
we?
Certainly are. Do you get the same response? I collect transistor radios and nothing near the quality or the beauty of these, but whenever anyone asks, what do you collect? And I say radios, people go, oh.
I think because people are starting to appreciate that they resonate with a whole lot of synchronicities with the Art Deco era, with the rise of radio, with a new material such as Bakelite. So there are many things that went together to make these particular radios very significant. And I was in England a few years ago, and I saw this radio, the green Emerson. I was just blown away by them, and I thought that'd be a nice thing to collect.
Yeah, it's easy to see why you've been blown away. We've all been blown away too, and we're particularly interested by the design of them. It's the aesthetics. But we know that there are collectors out there for whom it's the valves and the electrics that really turn them on. What is it about them for you specifically?
I'm completely a cabinet guy. Shape, the size, the texture, the feel. There are many aspects, but it's that deco design, that machine-age design, and the fact that there's such a variety. There are so many of them, and then in each variety there are a set. You might have 10 colours in a set, and so it's not just getting one.
I need them all.
There's never enough. There's another mountain to climb.
I'm intrigued how you get them so shiny, because most of the radios that have come through my hand are kind of dull. What's your trick?
You find somebody who's good at this, and there's a guy in Sydney and one guy in Melbourne who specialise in it, and they polish them
And
by
they
hand.
polish them up by hand with slight abrasives and
Yes,
things?
they start with sandpaper, and they work their way through wet and dry and down to brasso. It's not like furniture which gathers a patina, which would be lost if you took it back to where it was. I think with radios, this particular Emerson was actually brown and green. Recently I had it polished just to see, and the candy of the green came up. So it just looks so much more spectacular.
It does.
Now, Peter, a lot of people are going to be thinking those bright coloured ones are just astonishingly wonderful. I mean, they're not just great, they are gobsmackingly great. Why didn't they take off, do you think?
They weren't particularly more expensive than the brown radios. They were just a variant. And the Radiolette, which came out in '35, was about £18 or 18 guineas. And the coloured one's the same, or maybe £1 more. But that was almost a quarter of the cost of a block of land. In England, there were a number of coloured radios produced by Wells Coates for Echo. I don't think he sold any, virtually, because the Brits wouldn't even look at anything other than brown until the 50s.
What's your holy grail?
There are apocryphal radiolettes. There's a red Radiolette supposedly does exist somewhere. And so that's somewhere out in the ether. That's the Holy Grail.
Thank you so much for bringing these in.
Thank you for having me.
OK, so I told you tonight's mystery object was simple, and I am sticking by that.